they're way more punk rock than Blink, than Green Day, as far as like just sound, sonically speaking. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review Podcast. Hope everybody's having a happy new year, man. Got Rob in the house with me today. We're talking about some Offspring stuff. So what's up, Rob? How are you, buddy? How was your New Year's Eve, my friend?
It was good, man. I'm at the age where New Year's Eve at home is like the greatest thing ever because it's like the one night a year where people don't bother you and you're kind of encouraged to like relax. And I like watched movies and played video games like a normal person's supposed to do when they don't have when they're not at work. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was having fun, but I was essentially working. Like, even people at the place were like, "Did you even like you filmed the whole set?" I was like, "Yes." We're like, "Hey, I drove up to Austin to film this set." Yeah, it was New Year's Eve. I had fun, but I don't drink or anything, so I was stone cold sober. And I was like, I came up to just kind of hang out, meet some people, and film this set. That was like the whole reason. But it was really cool, man. Shout out to Chris Klink and all the Nowhere Bound folks, man. Those dudes were super nice, super like welcoming, very, very, very friendly people, and I had a genuinely great time doing that. It's the first time ever being away from my family like that. That was weird. They offered me like, hey, you can stay a couple days if you want. There's plenty of space. And I had to come home, man. I miss my kids, miss my wife, and but I had fun, man. I had fun. Everybody got home safe. That's all that matters, dude. Everybody's that I know is okay. So that's my main concern. But we're gonna talk about the Offspring. This is a band that I think often gets overlooked in talks about pop punk rock, just in general. The Offspring doesn't really get brought up a lot, and I thought I knew why. I really did, man. And then I started listening to these songs, and I was like, I don't get it, bro. Like, they're way more punk rock than Blink, than Green Day, as far as like just sound, sonically speaking. And yeah, I feel like they get sold short because of how they chose to have some silly stuff going on in some of their songs. Pretty Fly for a White Guy, stuff like that. Like, while I get it, it is kind of silly. And I think that's the reason they get kind of forgotten, lost in the shuffle, I guess. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, and like I've told you before, the first big video I ever made was titled "The Offspring Get No Respect," and it was kind of based off of this exact thesis, which looking back is like kind of got it from Ian Winwood's book Smash, because there's like a whole chapter about it, and he kind of has that same theory of it. And I think you said it because after going through their catalog again, I kind of maintain my beliefs and why they don't get that sort of respect. It's very unique to them, I think, is what it is. I think a lot of this other analysis we can kind of say like, this doesn't happen because this, and this. With the Offspring, it's very like specific as to why they are not they're not cool enough to be like with the Rancids and NoFXs, but they're also not like hip enough to be how like Blink and Green Day are still kind of some of the biggest bands in the world. It's a very weird spot that they occupy within like punk, pop culture, and like just rock music in general. They're kind of a one of one in that.
I absolutely agree. I think that they're so smart, because those guys, that band as a whole, are very intelligent people, that they saw a way to capitalize on, grab people's attention, and then when you dig below the surface and you get into our songs on like the deep cuts and the B-sides, you get real thick slices of content of and what's the word I'm looking for here, man? There's a word I'm looking for. Commentary on like on the world at large. You get a lot of that in their music, dude. Like, they got, we're going to talk about their songs, bro. They got some dark music. And I think that they were looking at their options and they were like, well, we got to set ourselves apart so that we get noticed, because they were in the mix with the Green Days, the Blinks, the Rancids. So how do you do that? Well, you make a song that's so catchy and silly that it's on the radio all the time, and then people buy the album and they listen to the album, and then people like us that buy the album dig below the surface, and we're fortunate enough to have that kind of, I don't know, desire, I guess, what it would be. We have the desire to go and listen to an entire record and get, like, most of my songs, I'd say, like, I got on my list of top 10, it's like 23 songs long. I'd say most of them are going to be either singles that were like the third or fourth single, or they're like B-sides. Like they're people are gonna be really surprised by my list. I think there's a couple that are gonna be okay, yeah, of course, but overall, I think I've got deeper cuts than just the popular songs. But I think the band definitely still doesn't get any respect. I think that, and I've got a personal beef with them with how they treated Pete Parada. So, but that set aside, that's just a personal thing. I still look at it as like okay, well, how do they get treated in the world of punk rock? They don't get mentioned. People don't consider them a punk band. But listening to this, they are. Like they're a punk rock band still. It's weird. They're not even really pop punk, and any more than you could say a band like Pennywise would be pop punk, in my opinion.
So there's a lot to that, and that's kind of like the basis of everything I have to really say tonight. That's sort of like the Cliff Notes version, which is kind of funny because we didn't really discuss it, but it is a lot of that. A lot of it is
very coincidental
in how they present their pop music. It has a big part of how they are perceived by everybody as a result of that, because their bass music, like the deep cuts, as you're saying, and because I have a lot of those like as my sort of favorites, like the third single, the fourth. It's usually not the single that was the big single, but it was the single that probably got the guys that were a little more inclined to think like you and I do to sort of get them in. And so that's even my relationship with the Offspring, is not really as a punk band. Like I kind of have the take on them I did when I was younger that you have on a lot of these bands that I consider pop punk, but you say are kind of a different genre of music. That's sort of how I always interacted with the Offspring, because like, unlike the Blinks and the Green Days and those bands, you know, all the Small Things and Welcome to Paradise and all that, maybe there's some of the popular hits on those records. So as we talked about last week, they're chosen for the radio singles. They're not so drastically different as Pretty Fly for a White Guy is from like Pay the Man or something like that on the same exact record. It is such a left turn. And quite frankly, what it gets down to is there's certain datedness to their songs that got really big. So they, more than a lot of other bands, feel like a time warp, and they're the one band that doesn't really have the songs to catch in on that kind of cushy nostalgia the way a Blink and a Green Day have these sort of heartthrob songs that will always have that kind of Bryan Adams type of appeal to them. Whereas the Offspring at their core are Pennywise. Like they are very much a sister band with like Pennywise. So their pop music though is something that Pennywise, like that's the difference, is like Pennywise doesn't have like a Pretty Fly for a White Guy or an Original Prankster.
So I mostly agree with that, with the exception of the heartthrob songs. They've got some songs that are just as important to me, and I hear them. And since I was around when this stuff dropped, it also dropped at the same time as the Green Day stuff. So to me, it sends me right back, just like Green Day does. But some of their biggest songs are those wacky, kooky songs that will not get them the same respect. So I guess we're probably saying very much the same thing, but I think I'm a little less where you're at, but I'm mostly there. I'm mostly where you're at on that.
I think it's the difference too, and that's one of the things we have this time difference between you and I at times, because whereas maybe like the Blink, which I always say like I got Blink a little more first run, that has that effect on me of like even those big songs are still kind of pop songs to me, and related and part of it and part of that time period where the Offspring, quite frankly, I categorize them way more with like the Sublimes and the 311s and those guys like in my head.
Oh, really?
That's to me
interesting.
Like that's where they sort of reside with a much bigger punk rock base though than when we say it's like Sublime and Pennywise, that's kind of right around. You can see where it is. Whereas like again,
that's
Sublime
funny.
went in a different direction, but I think again that's where I would more put like I think of people who used to listen to the Offspring when I was a kid. It was not the people that eventually got me into like Rancid and that kind of stuff. It was the ones again. It was like the dudes that would have been into the new metal and into the 311 and into all that. Americana and Smash were just another CD that those guys had. So where I heard a lot of these songs for the first time, to be honest with you.
So I think that's probably just a situation based on where you're from, because I don't have that same experience. And the guys that I did get the Offspring from, they were on Epitaph, dude. It was the same guys that listened to Pennywise. Now, it wasn't the guys that listened to something I'm about to bring up here in a minute. It wasn't the dudes that listened to the Casualties, but it was the guys that listened to like Pennywise. They just stopped listening to them when they started. I think probably Conspiracy of One is where they probably stopped listening to them. They got all up to Americana, and then they were like, all right, I'm out. I no longer care about this band. But I am a little older, so I did discover them with the punk bands because they were on Nitro Records, they were on Epitaph, so they were on these labels with these bands that were extremely important to me. AFI, Rancid, like what? The Offspring very much ride with those guys. So one thing I got 2 bullet points that I want to ask about real quick. We'll try to make this fast. One, let's see. One is, okay, we kind of already mentioned it. Is the Offspring just Pennywise light? And then how many points of reference does it take to get from the Offspring to like Discharge or GBH? Like how far down the line does it take? Because with Blink, it takes like 30 things. But with the Offspring, I don't think it does. I think that they very much are Pennywise light. Because the reason this question even formed was that in my head, I was in the car driving, and I literally thought, and if you showed me a select few of these songs and then a select few of songs off of like About Time and went jumble, 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 which band is which? A kid that doesn't listen to it before may not be able to pick that out.
No, absolutely. It's like, and now we're speaking my language by the weird analogies we like to make here, because
right.
It's like they're like pop Pennywise. Like I said, it's
weird.
If Pennywise signed to a major technically like in 08 where it didn't really count anymore, but like if Pennywise would have signed to a major and there'd have been like the Offspring would have already been around, they would have tried to turn the Offspring into Pennywise or vice versa, very, very specifically. Yeah, I think they are very much. And I want to preface everything I'm saying today by I listened to the audiobook of Smash. It's titled Smash, obviously, because Offspring is such a big character in that book by Ian Winwood. So I'm getting a lot of stuff kind of fresh from there. But I can recall.
I need to listen to that.
You do, and the audio version in the British voice kind of helps you understand some of the references when you realize it's written for a British audience and not necessarily for American Southern California. So some of the stuff has an interesting perspective. And even then, Fat Mike is talking about how he was hanging out with Trey Cool and they saw the Offspring on like MTV or something in the 90s. And Trey Cool was like, look at those sellouts. And Fat Mike's like, well, you're on Reprise. These guys are my label mates on Epitaph, And it's funny that even back then they were kind of
Trey Cool said that?
Yeah, Trey Cool said that. And that's kind of funny.
Me.
That is funny. And part of it's probably Trey Cool being a little bit of like cheeky because of the way everyone
he probably was
to them. Yeah.
Shit,
and he's hanging out with Fat, but like Fat Mike kind of points, like Fat Mike got defensive of it because those guys, like we talked about how Green Day is very much a peer of the Gilman bands. Well, the Offspring aren't just a peer of like the Epitaph bands. They're one of the Epitaph bands. And Epitaph on that spectrum is right in the middle. Yeah. So if you go through it, like they're the reason why Epitaph has their weird status now of not a major, but the biggest indie of like all time. It is because Smash is the biggest indie record of all time. All of that. And that's one of the differences. And it's something to really explore with them and Green Day. The difference is they got big on the indie. And so they have multiple peaks too, kind of similar to Green Day in that way, where like Smash is the biggest indie record of all time. Americana, huge pop record. The other ones that when they were in their decline, still like the biggest records of the year for every single one of those years. But yeah, they reside more in the way that like it's not weird if even a band that might be popular, say like 88 Fingers Louie or Millencolin or those like bands that are kind of similar to the Offspring, if they were to tour with the Casualties of the Unseen, that's just punk bands touring. Yeah, it's maybe a skate band that's touring with them, but that's how we would kind of look at that. And if the Offspring didn't have their pop songs, they fit much more on a bill with those bands than they would on like a Good Charlotte Simple Plan.
Oh yeah, I think way more. I mean,
that's a extreme, but yeah, but on the spectrum, yeah, very much more so on that side of the Casualties part of like the Warped Tour stage versus the headliner at night on Warped Tour. Very, very much so. But having the rock star status of almost no one else but Green Day within punk rock as far as like records sold and status and stardom. They just didn't really get to capitalize on the same way that kind of Green Day did.
I agree, but they did something more special than Green Day, in my opinion, which is have the biggest selling indie record of all time. That's hard. That's something that'll never be replicated. It'll
especially
never
now
ever change.
It's over.
There's no way that ever changes, and I think that's something to hang your hat on and be very proud of.
You can do it.
I think the word I was looking for earlier was degrees of separation. That the degrees of separation between the Offspring and a band like Discharge or GBH is like 4. But with somebody like Blink or Green Day, it is far more. It's like 8, 9, 10. Dude, if you like Offspring, you might like Pennywise. If you like Pennywise, you might like NoFX. If you like NoFX, you like Bad Religion. If you like Bad Religion, you almost certainly like GBH and Discharge. That's what 5 at the most. I can get there faster than that. Mm-hmm. Offspring goes to Pennywise. Pennywise goes to Rancid. Rancid goes to GBH. Like, boom, you've gotten there. Like, it's so easy to connect those bands. It just never occurred to me because I don't think of them in the same world even, but they really are, especially lyrically.
Yeah, that's what they are. Like, again, because I think of a lot of these bands that got really big and we can say, okay, maybe they're not punk rock anymore, but their bass music is a type of, you can say like Blink's bass music is pop punk that goes into hip hop or whatever, or like Green Day has that like Gilman sound. The base of the Green Day sound, which is, if we have a Mount Rushmore of biggest punk sounds of all time, is the Epitaph sound. It is that sound. It's the skate punk.
You said Green Day. You mean Offspring?
No, I'm saying like there's the Green Day example for them having like the Gilman sound and mainstreaming that.
Oh, okay. I thought you misspoke. Okay.
Because I don't even think, like, to be fair to Rancid, we talk about it a lot. Like Rancid kind of helped mainstream ska a little bit. The Offspring really helped mainstream like this Epitaph style of punk rock, this skate punk California. It's like they are.
Oh, for sure.
And if you look at the early records, like all this stuff, it's a little bit pre of the Bad Religion and No Effects boom. It's straight up California punk rock with a little bit of like that suburban flair. So that's the funny thing is like they kind of grew up in the same surroundings as like the Blinks and those kind of guys. And so did the Green Day guys. The difference is those guys were a little bit older and kind of wanted to hang out in like old school punk. So they kind of split the difference. And so those guys, grew up going to the Black Flag shows, going to all that. So whereas like Blink and those guys grew up going to the Offspring shows, going to the No Effects shows. So that kind of helps display the degree. It's actually a generational thing of kind of evolution. So they are actually physically too closer to like what we would say more original punk, or in terms of California, actually hardcore. A lot of this stuff sounds like TSOL and Dead Kennedys with a little bit of a 90s kind of alternative edge to it. Yeah,
it really does. I think that it's funny because I do think the big Pennywise fans probably hate this, but if you like Pennywise and you tell me you don't like the Offspring, that is stupid. It doesn't make any sense because they sound identical with the exception of a handful of songs. Like, or I guess up until like their last 2 albums, but all the way through like Conspiracy of One and part of Splinter. Like, I mean, I'm talking like deep into their catalog. They sound like that music. That's what they sound like. I mean, I got examples from all those records on this list. And so, okay. So in the interest of like not being too crazy with our time here.
Yeah, I think we can do this for hours and hours.
Yeah. Before we get into this list, the last question I have for you would be, what is the Offspring's best record?
Americana.
Really? That was quick.
Yeah. And I didn't think so for years and years and years. I always thought it would probably be Smash because I was like, yeah, it's got to be the Epitaph record. It's got to be the Epitaph record. And then over about the last year and a half, I've been going through a lot of Offspring just to kind of sort of revisit my previous takes on it. And I'm like, okay, damn, it's Americana. Like like Americana has a few songs that I don't like by them kind of very specifically. But if I think of what the best of what they are and some of the worst of what they are, I think it's all just there in Americana. I actually don't like Smash. I think as much as I like the Fat and Epitaph stuff from that era, I don't like Smash as much as I think some of their other releases. If I did a top, this wouldn't be as fun doing a top album ranking for them, to be honest with you, the way it is in some other bands.
Well, so you said that very quickly, and my like knee-jerk reaction to that question would also be Americana. But I disagree because, and I'm using math for my answer would be mathematical. So I made a list of just all the Offspring songs that I actually listened to and would like that I like. Smash again got very few. I think you're right. I had Smash when I was a kid and it was important then, but it doesn't have the staying power that some of their later records do. I think Ixnay was just as good or better than Smash. But based solely on math, Conspiracy of One has a higher percentages of songs that I like. So based solely on that, based solely on math, I'll say that Conspiracy of One is the one that I personally think is their best record, followed very, very, very closely by Americana, because Americana was what I would have thought. And that's why I wanted to ask, because I was like, dang, I can't believe I like this much of I thought a bunch of the songs that were on Conspiracy of One were on Americana. And that's why I thought Americana was their better record. And so I started doing this list and I'm like, wait a minute. And I just realized, oh, I'm way, way off. I'm off on this. So I started just doing by the number. And let me see how many songs are on each record though, because that might actually
they're clearly in the same like kind of zone though on those two records. And so that makes sense.
It's very close. And I wouldn't say you're wrong even. Like I wasn't trying to say that. I was so surprised by the amount of songs that I liked off that record that I thought were on Americana. I was like, whoa. So Americana has 14 songs at 42.5 minutes. And then we have Conspiracy of One just 2 years later has 13 songs at 38 minutes. That might be one of the reasons why I liked it better too, though, because I like a much more condensed album that's faster. I hate really long records.
So yeah, this is one of the things I've written down as a kind of a criticism and a praise of the Offspring. I have a lot of really long songs on my list. I like them in that vacuum. They are a very difficult band to listen to their out because they have very long songs for that style, especially that we're talking about. Like I'm used to hearing Tony Sly and Fat Mike and these guys get in and
2
out
minutes
in 2
and 10
minutes.
seconds. Yeah.
And these guys are going now. I like a lot of their longer songs, but to me, their longer songs more pulled from some of these other genres than it's kind of hard. You can't really do skate punk for like 7 minutes. Like it kind of doesn't sustain. You have to change it up a little bit. So that's hard to they're hard to listen to from like an album perspective.
When we get into this list, you'll see that I have a lot of their shorter songs as my favorites. Like they're faster, shorter songs, just like any other band we've talked about. It's going to be real obvious if you think about it for a while. If you pause this, go look at their discography, you'll probably be able to pick out the majority of my list. But yeah, their best album, I would say it hovers somewhere in those two. It's either Americana or Conspiracy of One. I think their biggest and most impactful album, that's a completely different question, and that would be Smash. Their best singles, their best recording quality, the best production they got was in that like little 2-year pop with Americana, Conspiracy of One. And honestly, the most of my list is comprised of songs from those records. So yeah, without further ado, let's start talking about some songs. I'm going to go pretty quickly with my, like, I have a very large, what do you call it? Honorable mentions list, because I just went with songs that I actually like, because since they have all, okay, here's the thing, since they have all that silly crap on their records, dude, there's plenty of stuff I don't like on their albums,
right?
So when it got down to it, there was only 23 songs that I like from the Offspring, but those songs are so good that I'll put those up against bands' entire discographies. So let's start with 23 being the title track off of Conspiracy of One. It's just a really good, solid song. Then we have One Fine Day off of Conspiracy of One, which honestly, it crept all the way back and then all the way back out. It's a mover, man. One Fine Day is a really good song with your buddies. It's a great driving song. You know what song I'm talking about? Open up your engine, have a cowboy. Yeah. Like it's just like a da 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 da. It's much more poppier of the skate punk stuff.
Yeah, but fits very much into that, like that sort of like it could be a Fat Record song, kind of.
Yeah, yes, yeah. It could be a No Use for a Name song. I wouldn't be surprised. 21, it's probably gonna piss some people off. It is Self Esteem. Again, the Smash songs don't really hold that much weight to me, but that song is really good. But 20 is also off Smash, and it's What in the World Happened to You, because that song is like it's almost like a Rancid track, dude. That song, it probably could have ended up much closer to the top 10. It's a really good song. It's timeless in my opinion. Do you know what song I'm talking about?
Yeah, and honestly, these are the songs that I didn't like on Smash, and where I've sort of put the negative on it. But I think these were the songs that they eventually like modeled their popular songs after. Like I think this is what they were kind of going. So I think they're kind of important for the band. I just kind of like whenever I wrote now whenever they try to do NoFX, you know how like you don't like when NoFX does like ska and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I kind of feel like that with whenever the Offspring kind of veer from like skate punk, I don't like what they do.
But that What in the World Happened to You just happened to be one that I like. I liked it when it was out too, though. When it came out, that was one of my favorite songs on the whole album.
I do think a lot of these are good bass songs, as we always say about good punk rock songs. They are very good bass songs that could be turned into a lot of different things.
It gets even better here, though, because number 19 is A Million Miles Away off of Conspiracy of One. Again, another song that could have easily been in anybody's top 10, I think. Number 18 is I Choose off of Ixnay and the Hombre. That album is super underrated, in my opinion, man. Number 17, It'll Be a Long Time off of Smash. Another deeper cut, though. Like, that song wasn't very popular, but it's, like, easily, dude, like, top 2 or 3 songs of that whole album. Let's see. Number 16, I put The Meaning of Life off of Ixnay and the Hombre. Number 15, I put Long Way Home off of Splinter. Number 14, though, this is where we really get into some songs that it was really hard to not put these 4 in my top 10. So there was a lot of moving around. So at any point in time, from 14 to 1, with these, let's say from 14 to like 3, those 11 songs could be in any shape on this list. 2 and 1 kind of just stay where they're at. So number 14 is Come Out Swinging off of Conspiracy of One. That song bangs, dude. That song is so good. That is a good skate punk song.
You like a lot of Conspiracy of One. I'm noticing.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Well, it starts to like thin out on the top 10, and I did that kind of on purpose because I almost had 6 songs off the one album.
Yeah.
And then I put "Gotta Get Away" as number 13. That's on Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Very good song. Another one off Conspiracy of One at number 12 is "All Along." Number 11. I almost put number 11 at 10. So number 10 and 11 can flip flop. Number 11 is called "The Noose" off of Splinter. That song is really good. Like really good. Do you know that song at all?
I know a lot of these Splinter songs. I heard them and I listened to them before this. I couldn't tell you what it is though. Like off the top of my head.
Dude,
yeah.
Go check out "The Noose." Anybody's watching this, "The Noose" is probably the best song on that album by a fairly wide margin. Okay, on the top 10, this is where we really get into some conversations, I hope. Number 10 is off of "Rise and Fall, Rage and Grace." It's "You're Gonna Go Far, Kid." It's just a good song. It's really catchy, and they had that halftime drum beat that I really like. Against Me was doing it a lot back then too. But my question is this: how in the absolute does this song have their most plays on Spotify?
The timing. I had a similar observation because it's when the song came out. The song came out in 2008, so it times out with Spotify a little bit better.
Oh,
that's got to be what it is. It's also though. Here's something that I've noticed.
It's got 100 million more plays than their next song.
So there's got to be reasons for it beyond that though that we don't even know about with digital music, because that song is always on my AI DJ and stuff. That song comes in all the time for good reason, but I think it does.
It must be because it coincided with the digital age of music just being like kaboom.
It's their last hit. That album, by the way, very good. Like I don't think we're going to talk about it a lot because it was like
we're not.
it kind of reminded me though of like those late stage Pennywise albums again, like those where we said like there's nothing wrong with those albums. It just kind of gets faded in with some of that
stuff. They're not
that
classics because they just not. They're not old enough yet.
The Offspring are very much a time and place kind of thing. However, I've got that one on my list, and I got to tell you, let me just jump in before I mentioned a few of mine or jump in with some stuff. Is everything we said about the Offspring. When I saw them perform a couple of months ago, and one of the biggest crowds they'd ever performed in front of, you talked about like what they are musically, and it's like, holy crap, they were the oldest band by far of any other band. That was them and Green Day were probably the oldest band, and probably the two bands that could play the best. To be honest, like the two bands that just sounded the best because, quite frankly, they just sounded most like bands more so than any other two bands that were there. But also like they've really got it together and really have this thing formulated, and they are a Epitaph style band. So they learned, like Green Day, how to play these songs in the freaking garage. So they can still do that when they have these later era ones, except for like the original Prankster and stuff. But that stuff really doesn't translate to like either a festival, a warped tour, any real setting. A song like "You're Gonna Go Far, Kid," that song's good. That song would be good right now if you and I wrote that and we said like, look at this cool new punk song that we wrote. That's a badass. Again, like makes you think of like just I think of like skate. Like that'd be a great like skate punk song on a skate video. If you didn't know it was coming from the Offspring, you would think of it as just some cool like deep cut that you heard from somewhere.
I agree. My brother is the DJ for a station down here in Houston, 94.5 The Buzz. And he called me up once and is like, "Hey man, I know you don't listen to most of what's on my channel." He's like, "But you like the Offspring still, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro." And he's like, "Dude, they're playing this show. I got tickets, man. We got them. They're like right in front." I was like, "Well, how much is it?" He goes, No, they're my tickets. I got a +1. You want to go? I was like, "Let's go." And so I met him down in the middle of Houston. It was funny too, because like when I showed up, I had to go to like the green room where all the like radio folks were hanging out, and it was I was so uncomfortable because I'm not that kind of guy, but I am a people good person, so it was pretty easy for me to like get to talking. But like I walk in, I'm the only dude wearing like jeans and Vans. I'm the only dude wearing like a Rancid shirt and like a hoodie. I'm the only dude dressed like a guy that might listen to the Offspring. And then I realized
like you're in the band.
Dude, I realized that it was because I wasn't at an Offspring show. I was at BuzzFest and they were headlining it. So there was a bunch of like people that would listen to Sublime, dude, like the guys you're talking about, the bro guys, the guys that listen to like 3 Days Grace or whatever that band's called, 3 Doors Down, right? Or whatever.
Yeah,
both of those bands.
Which is what it's funny because you say radio star, like I said about like 311, and that's exactly why. Like I'm way more partial, I think, to the hits of the Offspring than a lot of other bands we're going to talk about because like I got to know so much of the Offspring through like alternative rock radio. Like, and that's really where I play a lot. Even this song, like the end of like rock radio around here,
right.
like 08, 09. And this is one of the last good songs was You're Gonna Go Far. It's one of the songs that sort of, I can say I learned from the radio. It's probably, you know, right. And it's old songs from that era, you know, Personal Circumstances be that would have made, but that's about the last time where people actually, the radio had actual power. But it's funny because I've watched a lot of live Green Day over the years because our live Offspring. And again, because I thought they blew me away in Vegas, but God, I watched their Hellfest performance last year. It was terrible. Like, my God, I don't know if they could only bring it around other punk rockers and they get around metal guys and can't play or what.
I hadn't actually finished my story about that yet because you had said how great they were at the fest. Do you remember my reaction to that?
Yeah, you were stunned. I don't know.
I was stunned.
Again, I don't know how me seeing the 55-year-old version of these guys blew me away, but
because they were very boring, and that was only like 2 years ago. This is peak COVID, so like
the
place was packed, but they were they were pretty boring. Now they were like, I mean, the songs were played very well. It sounded good, and they were fine, but they weren't doing much of anything. Noodles was probably the most active one on the stage, and I don't want to trash the band, do whatever. It was fun, but like, I was so surprised you said they did so well. But that song is very good. And something we often talk about on this channel is strategically placed F-bombs. That one's got them. That matters in music, dude. You got to have a thing where it's like, and people like, they resonate with that. And they're like, yeah, dude, that's right. That gets people's attention. So anyways, that's just something I had to bring up with that song.
Real quick on that though, it does show the power of the band because like Alkaline Trio's talked about this. Like whenever you put an F word in your chorus, you got to be willing to know that the radio is going to play. Like you got to have that reputation as a band that's like going to have staying power because they're going to have to edit or they're going to have to pull, like it's going to really be pointed out. So it's kind of a risk you take because there's some radio stations that straight up just won't play your single period if that's the case.
For sure.
So that's
mostly middle America stuff, but there's definitely
out there. I mean, K-Rock's going to play but yeah, so that's a risk that bands have to take, and it kind of shows like the band that gets to that level, like Alkaline Trio's talked about it, like it kind of hurt them a few times when they had did it because they're kind of scrapping trying to make it.
Dude, speaking of Alkaline Trio, Skiba did an interview on Tuna on Toast. I'm going to be clipping the crap out of that. I don't know how that's going to work with the copyright, but I might just read some stuff that he said in there and not have to actually use the audio, but like so I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's very specific topics. There'll be very short videos on my channel, but you should go listen to that, man. I'm happy for that guy.
I like Striker's content when he puts it out. Interviews
that guy's he's a little much for me, but he's got some good guests, so I like his guests.
People talk to him. That's the thing is he gets stuff out of people.
Yeah, and I don't want to like dog the guy. I think he seems like a really nice dude. No, genuinely, I think he seems like a really nice guy. And I would like to talk to him personally, but like the way he formats his conversations with people, it feels like when it's off and the lights turn off, that he's probably a fairly different guy. And it may be, I may be wrong. I don't know him, so I don't know. But and I don't mean it in a bad way. It just seemed like he like, oh, time to turn on, and I'm like, I'm not really that dude. So, but he seems like a cool enough guy, man. Number 9, I put Way Down the Line off of Ixnay and the Hombre. It took us forever to get to number 9. Sorry, folks. Ixnay and the Hombre is a very underrated album, in my opinion. We'll get to that album a little bit more down the list. But Way Down the Line is a really great gang vocal song. Very catchy, very good lyrics, very good hook. What do you think about that song?
It kind of fits in with a lot of that album where I keep shaking my head when you say it's a good album, but I also say Smash is a good album, and I don't have a lot of that on my list either. Like I kind of look at that one as a pairing with Smash. In that it feels very similar to Smash in that way, where there's really good songs like this, and then there's songs that to me just fall off on the back end of it.
So people say that about Insomniac with Dookie. They say they sound the same, and then you're saying that with like Smash and Ixnay, but I also feel the same way about both of them. I don't feel like Insomniac is very much like Dookie, and I don't feel like Ixnay is very much like Smash. I feel like they're both the albums that are like the oddball records. They feel like the leftovers that were done just happen to be better than the main course.
Well, to me, it's like it's in a weird spot though too, because like everyone thinks like they did Smash and then they did Americana. Like people forget that
That's what I'm saying. It's a very underrated record.
It wasn't on Epitaph like that. Their major label debut. It wasn't a flop, but it wasn't the smash. That would not. We're used to this modern world where you either have a hit or you die. Where it's like the Offspring were actually allowed to kind of have this record. That was a big record by like, by any other punk band, that's a hell of a record they had in 97. It just, what came after was so huge. But I think in the modern era, they would have probably just been dropped by their label for not selling as much, cause Smash outsold Smash. I forget which one, Smash or Americana. I think Smash actually has sold more than Americana as time has gone on. Although I think that goes that goes back and forth. So X-Nay kind of is put in that weird spot.
It does get lost
right
in the shuffle a little bit. It definitely gets lost in the shuffle.
Weird. Life Won't Wait's right there. I feel like Life Won't Wait's kind of similar to that.
Well, Life Won't Wait was in 98.
Okay, but it's like that same, like, not mid 90s, but like right after
late
the
90s stuff is weird, bro. Late
but
90s
before like, yeah, because original Prankster, and I keep saying that because I think they're most cliche. That one and Fight for a White Guy, that stuff really gets off the coattails of like all the small things and that kind of stuff. Whereas this stuff still had to this stuff had to stand on like the Rancid and the NoFX and all that. This was still kind of competing with that.
You know what? Now that you mentioned that, I think that was their reason for doing that. Hey, why don't we write these songs that'll ride the coattails of all the small things, and maybe we'll get some fans off that, and then they'll buy our record, and the people that already like us. They'll buy it anyways. And I think that's true.
Well, yeah,
but like,
and it came out first,
will buy it, and younger kids will get interested in this stuff because of those songs.
I think that's what it was. And again, it happens. Americana comes out before like Enema of the State, but Blink's already pretty jokey, and you know, NoFX accuses Blink of getting the jokiness from them, and on and on. The difference is, to be honest with you, I don't think the Offspring are that funny, and that's kind of what it is. Whereas they're just
clever at good writing. They're good at writing songs.
Yeah,
they're not
like
funny. No.
They're like smart people. Yeah, that's
they're clever.
That's like,
they're not funny.
Like Fat Mike and Tom DeLonge aren't dumb necessarily, but like
not at all. But they're funny. They're clever.
Dexter, Dexter is part of the punk rock professor club, and he is much more like in that Bad Religion. Like that's more of who I think he genuinely is.
Well, that's why I think this is 100% strategic.
Yeah, and I think they tried with it because these songs are kind of like social commentaries, but like it's kind of like how the Beastie Boys did a lot of social commentary, and nobody noticed. Like nobody gets the irony of "Fight for Your Right to Party." They think it's a party anthem,
bro.
Yes. And it's the same thing with like these Offspring songs. But that's sort of the price you pay though when you have pop music, is like it's gonna kind of lose its initial meaning, and that's sort of what's gonna happen. Whereas like I don't know, Roots Radical is always just gonna be like this really specific story and stuff like that. Where pop music kind of belongs to everyone when stuff becomes pop music. It's kind of the nature.
Right, I agree. All right, number 8 is a song that I originally thought was gonna be like my number 2. It ended up it fluctuates, man. It depends on the mood that I'm in. Number 8 is one that I was mentioning earlier. It's Want You Bad. It's a very this is a song that I think is timeless, and it also holds a lot of importance to me. And it's one of those ones that when I would watch Rachel Lee Cook in a movie, this is the girl I'm thinking about going, And you know what I'm saying? The emo kid song, that's this one, dude. Want You Bad, all tattooed in a vinyl suit, like me too, dude. Me too.
I think of American Pie too. Whenever they're getting ready for the last party, and that's on this one's on my list, and I put American Pie too. Like, first of all, what a great soundtrack that I need to review for my channel specifically because there's a lot of that stuff on there. But that song specifically, it's the only thing I have on there from Conspiracy of One, and it's because more of like seen it in the movies and stuff. And again, another one comes up on the Spotify algorithm. One thing they're very similar to not one thing, that's like 40 things about how they're similar to Pennywise, is I love Noodles' guitar tone, just generally throughout.
I do too, man.
I love that guitar tone. That is like, when I think, what's a good punk rock guitar tone? I just think like the Offspring. There you go. That's what
right.
It is.
Yo, that video's just like doing really well all of a sudden. I'm tripping out right now. I got like a bunch of my phone was blinking and I thought it was Carissa, and I looked at it and it wasn't. It was YouTube, and I'm like, I'm not that cool though, so it probably won't do very well. Okay, so this channel, we talk about gateway bands a lot, like on my channel specifically. I like it, dude. I think it helps because it gets people in, and once I'm just like a gateway band. Once you dig beneath the surface of my channel, you'll see stuff like that video I'm talking about, where I did a whole expose, 30-minute video on street punk. It's the biggest project I've ever done. I'm really nervous about his feedback I'm going to get. And I put a lot of work into it. It was like a 3-week video, man. But I was saying that to say, like, these videos we've been doing lately, me and you specifically, like NoFX will be like a deeper cut for us as the last like couple of months, man.
Yeah, we're getting back to our roots with NoFX. It's funny.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna jump into your favorite record though. Number 7 is off Americana, "Staring at the Sun." Fantastic song. Again, I think it was a single, but I think it was a very late single.
It was, right? Yeah, because I remember the song when I was a kid, and like I didn't own Americana until years later. It's just kind of it's like 2 songs though. That's the only thing about it. It's like it starts at one song, and then like I forget it's still on the same song. It's very.
I kind of like that. I mean, yes, there's pros and cons, but that one has a lot of Pennywise in it to me. But number 6 is also off Americana, and it's "The End of the Line." I love that song. I love that song, bro. It's so good. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's because I'm looking. Cause I have 2 lists. I have like 3 cuts, and that one was
Dude, you
on
were
my
looking at
mid.
your list, and I thought you were staring at the screen. I was like, "What did I say?" You
No,
were
that
looking
was
at
on
your
my.
list, weren't you?
That one was on my mid.
That was
my
awesome.
mid cut.
That's funny, bro.
A lot of this stuff too. It's funny, like, so clearly the Offspring like did because they were like a little bit older than the other guys and stuff. I think they kept hanging around with their friends because not only does this sound like skate punk, but it sounds like the skate like a lot of like Americana sounds like Pump Up the Volume specifically. Like it sounds like a lot of that specific era of skate punk. Not it doesn't even sound like like Linoleum era. It sounds like the late '90s stuff. And that's throughout Americana has a lot of that.
Sorry, hold on.
All right.
I was trying to. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Sure.
Okay, so I have a notoriously bad memory, so I just wanted to make sure that that was the song that I thought it was, and it was.
Right.
Okay, sorry. I was like, I said it, and I was like, wait a minute, because sometimes the title of a song won't jog my memory enough to let me hear like the hook or something. And I was like, why is that one at number 6? And then just now I heard like a little clip. I was like, oh, that's why, because it is the right
There's
song.
whole takes I've given that are about the wrong song, but still kind of apply. That I've gone back and rewatched. I need to start putting these in my ear and just make sure I'm talking about the right one as well.
Dude, sometimes I'm doing that. I'm doing that a lot more recently because I'm trying to make sure we have a better show.
Yeah.
At number 5 is off of Ixnay and Hombre. It's All I Want. It's just another deeper cut later single. It's really, really good. I don't know if that one ever was a single. It was just
we got
song.
a video for it, so I think it was.
There is a video for that song.
No.
I did not know that. Okay. I don't, dude. You know what's funny is people bring up music videos to me a lot because I do YouTube content. I've never been a music video fan. I don't know why.
I didn't grow up with MTV, but I grew up such a fan of music videos. Like I'm the one kid that didn't have MTV, but like a lot of my musical like centering is with music videos. And I think getting back in through music through YouTube more so than Spotify at first was a big part of that. So I see a lot of I feel like I see a lot of these songs that we talk about on these bigger episodes like this.
Well, it's I mean, music videos by and large for the last like 40, 50 years have been pretty important. I just never
this time period we talk about because like there's
they
were actually made with the budget. They were actually made with like money.
I would say like 85 to 05 was like peak music video time. And then and you go in between that, you go to like 88 to 98 is probably even more so.
Yeah, I think what's 98, the Freak on a Leash video is the most expensive video that like has ever been
so crazy
made, and that's right in there. It's same year Americana came out. Actually, it's right in that.
I hate that
charts, on the charts with them right around the same time. Another band I associate more with like the Offspring than I would like Rancid. I associate like Korn and Limp Bizkit way more.
Really? That's so weird to me.
I associate them with like Woodstock 99 and all that stuff.
It's solely based on our age difference. Otherwise, that wouldn't be the case, I don't think.
And I think that's why I got a lot of pushback to my Offspring video because I've always said like my audience is more representative of like you than they are of me, and a lot of and a lot of good criticism of it. But I was like, because I got a lot of positive feedback to it. I think that's the difference is like kind of similar to what we talked about last week. The Offspring, I think for my generation, were kind of patently uncool. And still kind of are like to the fact that like I only go back and look at their when they were cool kind of stuff because they weren't as like nerdy and stuff as they kind of appeared to be later on. Too. If you look at them like in the prime and stuff, go back and watch that stuff. Like
Offspring,
like I don't think they were quite as offset as we think of them now.
I disagree. Dude had long braids in the 90s, bro. That shit was stupid.
I know, but it was also like the 90s. That's what I'm saying. I think everything with them ages so bad with them. That's just the thing.
Well, I just think that because like, well, even back then, nobody I knew dressed like that, bro. Everybody had mohawks or hair like mine now, like just short hair. Like, I don't know. It must have been like a California thing. There was more than one person that had their hair like that. It wasn't just him. Noodles' hair has been the same. Do what?
That's him and like the singer of the Cottonmouth Kings. I feel like had that same hair in the 90s, right?
We do not speak about the Cottonmouth Kings on this channel, sir. Even though I used to own some of their records.
I feel like you were in them.
I kind of like them. I prefer, Bump.
Bump.
That's oh my goodness, dude! Stop. I haven't heard that band in like probably 25
You
years.
want to talk about something
So
that sounds dated? Cottonmouth Kings. That
Yeah.
sounds like 1999 right there.
Cottonmouth Kings and the Bloodhound Gang.
Oh yes. But, like, is there any Bloodhound Gang podcasts? Like, talk about a band that, like, I wonder, talk about dated and does not like fit in any other context. Like, is there even like a live show? How would you see the Bloodhound Gang back in the day? At least like the Offspring had a freaking guitar. Like, what were they as a band?
They had a guitar. They were a live band. They had a DJ too. They were a weird band though. They fit with like Sublime more than they did
The
like
90s
punk
were
rock.
weird, weren't they?
90s, dude. The 90s were so weird.
Like now people know how to fuse their music. They just combined it back then. They just did things together. They didn't know how to blend it yet.
Yeah, it was just people that listened to, dude. Yeah, I'm so glad the 90s are over, but I also miss them very much. Okay, number 4. We're in the top 5 here, dude. We're in like the
You're cranking.
Yeah, dude. Number 4 is Genocide off of Smash. That's my favorite song off of Smash. It's the one that I think has staying power. It still sounds good today. Doggy dog. Bro, it's so good, bro. That song makes me want to skateboard. Like that's the kind of shit I used to listen to when I skated. I would go out and listen to like stuff like that. That song to me reminds me of more like Bad Religion, Pennywise, Rancid. That song specifically sounds like a punk rock song to me more than most of their catalog does. Yeah. Are you a fan of that one at all?
Yeah. Again, I don't dislike Smash. It was surprising to me how it kind of like you did that with Punk and Drublick when we did the No Effects album episode. It's like, yeah, it's sort of implied to be the one, but it's like, oh, maybe it's more important than it is actually like great.
I feel like that with Let's Go. And I love that band and that album.
Same. A lot of these 94 albums are kind of like that. Yeah.
Well, I think late 90s, the production got better. So like the songs maybe would have sounded better if they were just recorded 5 years later.
Possibly maybe that's why Americana, because it's like Americana, you're getting like 80s punk in a modern studio kind of like that's what those bands would have sounded like if they could have done that.
I think that matters a lot. I think Outcome the Wolves was lucky because it just happened to have really great production. So, I mean, all this music is so important, man. All these songs are good, dude. Like the Offspring's a great band. I have problems with them. Like, let's not be crazy here. They're not a perfect band. But damn, they got some good songs, dude. Like I couldn't even come up with a 10.
Yeah, they're like on musically, they're on our team though. Like if you have to draw the line, they are on our team. Like, and that needs to be established more so than other bands that are kind of considered with, like, for sure. Like they are, like if the battle lines were ever drawn, like they'd be fighting with their Stratocaster bayonets on our side.
Right. And I think I put these guys as more of a punk band than Blink, maybe Green Day, but maybe like on the same surface as Green Day, but definitely like they're more punk than Sum 41. They're more punk than Newfound Glory. They're more punk than what's the other one that I absolutely hate? I think they're Canadian.
You hate Simple Plan. Yeah, you really
Simple Plan. I hate that band. But they're more punk than Simple Plan. They're more punk than all the other bands that were in that era, with the exception of maybe Green Day. So if you're looking at it from a punk rock standpoint, this band fits the mold far more comfortably than most bands that your general audience calls punk rock. That might be the most eloquent thing I've ever said on this channel. Champ shit only. You know what I'm saying? I'm hanging out with you a lot, buddy. But yeah, man, that song is really, really good. My top 3, I think my top 2 are like, there's no way to ever change it, but my top 3 is pretty set in stone too. Number 3 is off Americana. It's No Breaks. That song is phenomenal. Does that land on your list anywhere?
It was on that mid list that I have, like the second cut list.
Yeah.
I mean, most of Americana was, but just because all those songs like that are just, they're kind of hard to
consistent. They're so consistent. That's my issue. Okay, that's the word for this list, is that consistency. Because if you take the bullshit out, the rest of the stuff is all of the same ilk. It's the same quality. All of it. All of these songs are the same quality. All 23 of these, with the exception, I'm going to stick with my number 2 and 1. All of them could be thrown in a bag and then pull it out, and then that's the order that I like them, with the exception of these next 2 songs. But No Breaks is a really good song. Americana, while it may not be what I think is their best record, and it's by a hair, okay? And I wouldn't say it's a definitive statement either, to be honest with you. I think it's basically Americana / Conspiracy of One. All those songs make up their best material. But number 2 is off of Ixnay and the Hombre.
Okay.
It's If it wasn't for number one, this would be hands down my favorite Offspring song. Do you have a guess as to what it would be? Look at the track listing and tell me what you think it is.
Let me look at the. Hang on my computer here. Let me look at that.
I'm excited to see if you. I think you can get this one. I have faith in you.
Let's see. You might have to give it. Last week, I was surprised that I hit that weird one that I didn't think. Where'd you go?
Just think of me and my attitude. That's my hint to you.
Okay, you and your attitude, which there's a lot of attitude on this. Cool to Hate?
Yes, sir.
Right,
my man, my dude. You know me very well, sir. That is one. That song might be their most punk rock song. I hate a lot of people. Dude, come on, bro.
I had written down in my notes. I'm Against It by the Ramones. It kind of reminded me of that kind of vibe.
Yes, yes, dude. And I even hate you too, so fuck you. It's like, dude, come on, bro. That's a song when you're just having a bad day. It's just, that's the song you want to hear.
That's a song that's totally like written in band practice too, right? When you're just like kind of messing around and saying stuff.
Yes, it really is.
Oh, there you go, platinum hit.
So, okay. I think the best Offspring song is what's the word, man? There's no argument against it. There is no way you can say it's not their best song. It is absolutely their best song. It's the one that I expected to have the most streams on Spotify. I was shocked when it didn't. It's The Kids Aren't All Right. That is their best song. That is a perfect song. It's a song that is relevant now. It was relevant when it was made. It'll be relevant from 30 years from now, 200 years from now. That song will still be relevant because the lyrics are so perfect. It's a perfect song. Like outside of punk rock, it's just a perfect song. That song, I can listen to it any day, any time. And it makes me feel sad, makes me feel a little happy that I got out of that life. It makes me feel angry, it makes me feel empathy, makes me feel joy. It makes me feel so much, bro. And it also is a song, it just slaps, bro. It's a banger, dude. It's just a banger of a song. Anyway.
Oh, hell yeah. That's good. So that one's on my list as well. I think of their hits, which a lot of my list is a lot of their hits. I think it's their best hit of like those top level hits. Again, the Noodles guitar sound is coming in at the top of that one. The way Dexter delivers it. It's also like such a universal song too that like everybody knows.
That's why it's so good. That's why it's their best song.
It's the one that gets put on all the the best of the 90s. It's not by accident that this is the song that always gets
right.
It is a straight up punk rock song too of all these songs that we have on there. And we'll talk about once again with the video. This is right in that area. That video is this trippy 90s trip where these guys are cutting out of each other. It's got all those things. The thing that what I'd like about it though is it's late 90s. So it's got a lot of that early 90s kind of Counting Crows look, but it's also got that super flush color palette that the 2000s would come to have in it. So it's kind of in between the two. And he said like so much of the Offspring is dated. This is not. Yes, this makes me think of the 90s because that's where it is placed. But again, like I think about like my job even and stuff. It's a relevant song. The end of the Woodstock documentary, they put this song on there. Like it's kind of like a classic rock song in that way. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. Like even when I talk to people from my other channel about Juice WRLD stuff, this song is still one that I reference. This song, what's the word I'm looking for here? It goes beyond the scope of just punk rock. This song is important. Like a school counselor could use this song. Like you said, a documentary filmmaker could use this song. But a good punk kid could like this song. It could be on a mixtape. This is one that would fit right next to Rancid stuff, in my opinion. No Effects especially. It would fit right next to No Effects stuff. Like Pennywise. The Kids Aren't All Right. Now, here's the thing. When I was making my list, I looked at it and I literally thought, I will not take any other answer than The Kids Aren't All Right as their best song. It just is objectively. And then I thought immediately after that, fucking Rob is not going to have this as his number one song because you're a contrarian. Like you love to push people's buttons. And that's one of the things I love about you. So I want to hear your top 10 list from 10 to 1. What exactly is on your list, sir?
Okay. Mine's not as ordered as yours. Okay. But it's as ordered as when I decided to put it on the list. So that's
pretty ordered then.
That is, yeah. Okay.
Dude, your instinct matters, dude. Your instinct's usually right.
So I have about a top 11 from Americana. Okay. I have Feelings, another song that at 2:52 feels kind of long, but I love like the angsty feel of Americana too, where there's a lot of parts where he's just like yelling into the mic, where there's not even a lot of music. Feeling, and it's just kind of that.
I hate that song.
Increased stuff. Okay, now let's get into some of the ones that everyone knows. At number 10, I have Self Esteem, obviously off of Smash.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just always love the, and we talk about a lot of that kind of like heavy sound to it. The Offspring is more of that, that kind of Fat Records chuggy sound, but they do have some songs like that. After that, I also have Bad Habit from the same album. See,
I don't like that song.
Smash, I like the poppier, but not I said the pop song, but the songs that got big is kind of the songs I like a little more from Smash. Now, my one Xnay entry is I have All I Want at about number 8.
Yeah, it's a good song, man. That was my number 5.
Solid album. And a lot of the Offspring have good like associated media with them. We talked a lot about the videos. I think their album packaging looks generally pretty good. They have some pretty cool artwork. I have You're Gonna Go Far Kid at number 7. That was one that I threw in there at number 7. I have Pay the Man from Americana at number
Pay the Man.
6.
Hold on, pause that real quick.
The end, the 8-minute long one.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
yeah. And then I have, which I think I this was probably my favorite from Americana, right next to Kids Are Alright, but I have You Ever at number 5, and I just love like again, I just think of that. It's just like I get it. They didn't play I don't think they ever even played a Warped Tour, but I can just think of this song like at a Warped Tour, like a sweaty 2:00 in the afternoon. Just Have You Ever,
Wait, they didn't play the Warped Tour?
I don't know if they ever did. I would have to look that up. I don't.
They might have been too big by then.
Yeah, because like 95 is the first year, and Smash comes out in 94, and they're already like kind of disassociated.
They were too
way.
big by then. I think. Yeah, they were already headlining their own tours by then.
Because you think about it, like Green Day only has one, and they had it in 2000, where it's kind of like it's more of like them doing Warped Tour a favor than
Right. Yeah, that was weird actually.
And then I have I got Kids Are Alright. We just talked about that. I Want You Bad.
Wait, what number is Kids Are Alright?
I have that about number 3.
3? That's not. I'm not going to argue that. Want You Bad number 2 makes me happy though, because no Want You Bad started as my number 2.
Yeah, and it's again, when I think of like just good Offspring pop song. There you go. And then the one this is not number 1, but it's the first one I put on there because I wanted to make sure it was on. So it's slightly contrarian, but it's not really my number 1. It's Tehran from the first album. And this song, the reason why I got so familiar with
I don't even know that song. I don't think the one with the maroon cover with the fire?
No, the original one where it's the little black and white color with the green Offspring.
Oh, that's their first record? I thought Ignition was their first record.
No, the other way around. Ignition's the second.
Oh, okay. Well, then I have an honorable mention off of their first record too. Then I'll talk about in a second. I know you know which one that is.
Tehran though is the one comes. I love that first record actually. I think it sounds a little bit different than a lot of their other stuff.
Sounds like AFI.
Yeah, and there's a lot of AFI in a lot of that music because they got Nitro Records. So
they were all hanging out back then. I mean, they all sounded the same.
Right, and then you also have like on Americana, you have the Vandals sampled on Walla Walla. That's the middle of a Vandals song. But Tehran is the song that they contributed to the Rock Against Bush comp later on in 2004. So I had never heard this. This is the initial Offspring album, the first thing they ever put out. The first, and I was like old Offspring again in the era when I had the least amount of respect for them. I heard this song and I was like, okay, the Offspring were actually kind of cool back in the day, and it was this song that kind of got me into it. But really, like I would take this debut album over if I get them right over the second album. That second album I think is good, but just the one with starts out with Sessions and all that, it's good, but just okay. I think the first record's a little bit better.
I think the first record's a little bit better too, which is probably why I thought it was their second record.
Yeah, it's very Dead Kennedys, it's a lot of TSOL, it's a lot of that kind of stuff. Whereas I think the second record's more them transitioning into like what the Offspring more would become, and the first record is more that first record influence kind of record that a lot of bands put out. Where they sound
very, very different. What song do you think I like off that record?
Let me look at the track listing. Let's see. Because I wonder how you like that record. Because again, I get the vibe.
I don't love it.
You're more of an East Coast than a West Coast, and that's very much California punk. That album.
Yeah, I don't love that record. I'm very much more, dude. I'm so glad you understand that. I very much would rather listen to like some New York shit than California, except Rancid.
And then I found Baghdad, which is another song I remember from back in the day. They were. It's funny like them and Bad Religion are all in on the first Gulf War because that's like the time period that they were.
Right. For real though.
The discography. Hold on here. We're really leading to a big payoff here with me guessing here.
Oh no, it's very simple. You'll see it.
I know. I'm more mad at why I can't find the track listing. Oh, there actually is an album listed that came out in '89 off of like Nitro.
Oh, really?
I don't know if Nitro was like a. I cannot find the track listing. I don't know.
It's Beheaded, bro.
Okay, yeah, that was on my mid-tier list. Good.
Yeah. Mommy doesn't have her head anymore. It's lying underneath my bed on the floor. That's all right, and that's okay. She never really used to use her head anyway. Beheaded.
It's funny the way that like Good Charlotte probably saw the Offspring and wanted to have a punk rock band. I feel like they sell Jello Biafra and we're like, yes, we could do that too, but we're like molecular biologists from Orange County, and that is kind of the final word on the Offspring. That's what they are. They're observers of like all the world they talk about. Whereas again, we talk about Rancid as a storytellers. Rancid's more participants, but then the Offspring are more like commentators on that world.
It's like while Rancid was outside hanging out with the punk rock guys and skateboarding and smoking cigarettes and getting in fights, the Offspring were in the lab doing shit, looking out the window and seeing it and going, oh man, I want to start a band. And they wrote a song about what they saw.
So Welcome to Paradise and Come Out and Play basically have the same story because they're basically about the same thing. And so Come Out and Play is Dexter driving to USC because he got into USC, but he's from like a nicer part of California, but driving through here and like kind of looking at the hood. That was sort of his musings of the hood. Whereas Welcome to Paradise is once Green Day moves from wherever they were in the kind of the suburb of California to like Berkeley. And all of a sudden, like, hey, they were in the hood. And that's like, hey, mom, can you hear them? It's his letter to his mom about what he sees. So it's kind of like the suburb kids seeing like the darker side of California is really what both those songs are. And it's funny, those two of the biggest songs in the early 90s right there on that same subject matter.
And to be fair to me, the reason I didn't know that is because I don't care. I didn't know that because I didn't look into the songs. It's interesting that people always get mad at me in the comments about, oh, I can't believe you didn't know so-and-so. I don't ingest art the same way most people do. I'm sorry. Get over it.
On the show, guys.
Do what?
I said, that's why I'm on the show, guys, to provide.
I mean, in all sincerity, dude, we have very different things we bring to the table.
Yeah.
Like, that's what makes this so fucking fun, is that we bring very different shit to the table, and we do have a great time talking. It's a lot of fun, man.
I didn't think the Offspring would be this fun to talk about.
Man, I have a whole playlist on Spotify. It's got all 23 of my songs. So if anybody wants to check that out, go for it, man. I also have the Punk Rock Review playlist, which is just my like catch-all for all the songs that I enjoy that are in that genre. It is like 1,050 songs, so there's plenty to listen to. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to go through there and start taking off, I think, but because I put like whole albums on there sometimes. But yeah, man, Offspring's very good, dude. Very, very good band. I do wish that the fat could be trimmed, you know, in hindsight, I guess, but I'll take it if that's what I have to have. I'll take that to have the stuff I've got.
Yeah, because we have the modern technology too, so we can customize this. We more are breaking it down to how it was originally presented, but like you can enjoy these bands still like with the fat cutoff too. Is kind of.
I will say that is probably my favorite thing about Spotify. And I was talking to somebody recently, and they were like, "No, man, I only listen to Spotify." And then I had another guy that was like, "I only listen to stuff on LP." And I was like, "Well, I like both because I like different things for different reasons." And I said, "There's bands like the Briggs." Or Bombshell Rocks, Rancid, where I listen to complete albums the whole way through, and I do it very regularly. But there's bands like The Offspring or even Green Day. I don't own their stuff on vinyl. I don't want to. I don't need it. I don't listen to them in its entirety. Playlists are better for me, or mixtapes, whatever. I'll take physical media, but I'll have to make it. And you know, CDs are okay for that because you can just skip real fast. But like, some bands aren't made for vinyl, dude. And The Offspring, in my personal opinion, would be one of those bands. But you know, that's probably a relatively unpopular opinion. I think most people would still buy Offspring records.
People who like The Offspring, and like I would make their joke about them not having their fans. That's absolutely not true. They have their fans, and they have a lot of casual fans. They have a huge huge audience. Shout
out to Adam Benison. He's one of the biggest supporters of my channel, dude. His favorite band is The Offspring, and he's literally a death metal guy. Like, I still don't understand it, but whatever. Adam's good people, man. That dude's awesome. He's been around on my channel for a very long time. He's Adam's awesome. Super, super nice guy. Sends me cards for the holidays and stuff. Very, very sweet person.
Wow.
But I was actually excited to do this list for Adam. So if you got to this point, Adam, I love you, dog. You're awesome people, man. So next week we're gonna do No Effects, huh?
Yeah, this is gonna be a hell of an undertaking.
That's gonna be a hard list to get down to 10. So we might have a top 20 list.
Yeah, we can load it with. I like how we don't structure it on the exact number of. I think our lists are as long as they need to be.
Top 10 list, but we'll get to the top 10 when we get to the top.
But that's gonna be hard. Yeah, I feel like
podcast.
I could do like one album and I'd be like, oh crap, I got like 7, and it wouldn't be like
my issue with The Offspring, to be honest.
Yeah, but The Offspring, I still feel good about it. Like, okay, I'm gonna leave off this. There's gonna be stuff like there's stuff that's gonna get left off that we'll save for another episode on another way of.
Well, let's be clear, dude. On the NoFX top 10 list, the Decline won't be on there. anything past like War on Terrorism won't be on there because it's not their best shit. It's just not. Like
if you want to hear stuff from that album, listen to my list because there'll definitely be stuff from those albums. Not from The Decline, but I'll
like,
have some
after War on Terrorism.
Yeah, I'll have
top 10 NoFX songs after War on Terrorism.
They'll at least be in the mix for sure. Like on that mid, it'll be in the mid list.
Hold on, let me double check my shit then.
But we talked about this on that, like how you like later Rancid, I like later NoFX.
That's true. That's true.
You know,
that's a very good.
I say that, and it'll all be like 94 through 2000. But
let me see here.
But like for this, whereas like I didn't give the last Offspring thing much of a chance. Like I'm gonna go through all these.
No, I'm stupid, bro. War on Terrorism came way earlier than I thought it did because Coaster and Wolves Clothing have really great music on it. So I have to backtrack that one, but it'll be like all stuff pre 2010. I don't think they have anything that's after 2010 that would be considered top 10 of their stuff. I'll go back and listen to it again, but I can't imagine that.
It's gonna be a fun week of research. That's all I gotta say.
Bro, oh, hang tight. Hey, hold on one second. I got something I want to show you real quick. Hold on. It's not my wiener.
Oh man.
All right, sorry about that. It only took a second. Excuse me. First, to commemorate my trip out of town without my family, I got the set list from the Nowhere Bound show, which is super lame. But I also got photos with me and the band, and those guys are really important to me. So I'm gonna make like a little framed thing to put in my office. I have like a couple of spaces that I've been waiting to put something important to me that'll be there. But another shout out to Chris Klink, dude. You know that Live in a Dive series?
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this and I thought this was what that was.
Oh yeah, it's Live in a Drive though.
It's a bootleg. It's a double LP, and it's Fart Records.
Oh,
Fat
the whole
Records.
thing.
So
Yeah,
it's
Fart
like
Records.
a whole So like, but look at this, dude. It's it's a double LP. I think that's like a purple color.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. And then the first one's like a gold.
Orange. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's got obviously 2 LPs, so there's a lot of songs. But he just gave me. He's like, yo, I got 2 Rancid live records. When you get here, I want you to pick one out to take home. He knows how much of a nerd I am for this band. And the reason that I picked this one is it's got 4 sides, so there's a lot more music on it. But on that music, they play Knowledge, Big City, and Unity. Like, I had to own this, dude.
Full versions too. I mean, like
I think so. I haven't
versions.
listened to it all the way through. It's live, so I would imagine.
Yeah. I'd have got Catfish on that. I'd have thought it's a fat rat. I was like, oh, Rancid released.
I totally thought it was. No, I 100%.
It's packaged like those, like the No Use one and like all like the NoFX one and all that. Yeah.
I even mentioned it to Chris. I was like, oh, I thought this was a Live in a Dive, and he started laughing. He's like, well, no, it's a bootleg. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm not that smart. I'm sorry. They even have an upside down Hellcat called Live Cat Records.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or no, Dead Cat. I think it's Dead Cat. Yeah, Dead Cat Records.
Bootlegs are awesome.
But yeah, limited to 350 copies.
That is so cool.
I know, dude. I cannot believe he gave me this, man. So I'm gonna probably do like an entire video on this record, probably, because it'll get copyright claimed. But at a certain point, it is what it is. And then last but not least, because I want people to see that he did this for me, man. You see what it says at the top?
Test pressing?
Yes. You know what that is, right?
That's yours. That's
yeah. Dude. Presented to My Ugly Mug. Bro, you know how excited I was to get this, dude? I don't even want to open it up and play it, but I'm gonna.
Shoot, man.
I gotta play at least once.
Yeah, well, document it that way, not just for YouTube, but just so you have it, like as
yeah, for sure.
Cool.
But Yeah, man, I hung
You
out
were
with him,
so,
dude.
you were so excited to go. You were so happy.
Bro.
that you were going.
I had so much fun because like he's genuinely like one of my favorite songwriters of all time.
Mhm.
Like, and then like I filmed the entire set, so that'll be up pretty soon. Dude, we had a blast, man. And I got to meet a bunch of good people. And then my buddy Richard from Bullshit Detector showed up and hung out for a little while. So that was really cool. I got to meet his girl and hang out with him. So all in all, man, very good night. Obviously no drinking, so I was the driver. I was driving home or back to Chris's house with like 3 German dudes I don't know in the back seat.
Nice.
Or it said dudes, 2 dudes and a lady. And then Chris driving, and I was like, man, are you guys comfortable? They're like, oh, we're fine. This is a big car to Germans. I was like, really? Because I drive a very small car. So I was very surprised. Dude, we were pointing out stuff like in Europe, they don't have like trucks and stuff. And he's like, we don't understand any of this stuff. And I was like, what about this? And I pointed to like this big jacked up truck, and I was like, they were like, dude, that's crazy looking. And I was like, yeah, dude, the guy's dick's about this big. And they were like, huh? I was like, nothing. And then they got it. Like, oh, geez. And I was like, yeah, overcompensating. But anyways, I hate giant trucks. They're stupid.
Amen to that.
They cause me so much grief when I'm driving around.
And then like
Bro,
the drivers inside tend to be like the biggest, what's that you've ever met. So.
Yeah, bro, they're so lame. But dude, this was an excellent show, man. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. Please comment on this jank. Subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 2,300 subscribers. I honestly can't really believe it. So thank you guys so much for your support. Go check out the Punk Odds, dude. Eventually he's going to get to where he can do regular content again. And when that happens, I will be doing whatever I need to do to help. So very much a channel that is going to be linked with mine indefinitely. So go check him out, please. And we have slightly different content. I mean, I guess I kind of go more the street punk route and you go more the educational route, I guess. I don't really know how to say it.
Yeah, I would say mine's based in pop punk, but like the broadest definition of pop punk. But yeah, and I'm trying to rebrand in that education. Like I'm trying to do all my content sort of not like an educational channel, but thinking about it educational wise. And then all the other little fun bits you'll get off of that more organically than trying to do the fun stuff because I'm silly enough as it is. So I'll get that stuff, That's
right.
Or, through these clips that we have fun doing. So there's plenty to put up there. Plenty for everyone.
Well, everybody, thank you very much. Rob, don't go anywhere quite yet. I'll see you guys next week with NoFX top 10 or so songs. So, yeah, have a great day, everybody. Happy New Year, man. Be safe out there. Have a great time. Love you. See you later. Peace.